The Stranger in the Aisle. In a quiet part of downtown Phoenix, there was a small, old grocery store. It sat between a closed video rental shop and a barber shop with a dusty pole that hadn't spun in years. The store was called Florist Market. It wasn't part of a big company. It didn't have machines to scan your items. It didn't have special sales or cool apps. But it had something special. Friendly people, creaky wooden floors, and a smell that mixed fruits, mop water, and old cardboard. People in the neighborhood loved the store. The workers knew your name, asked about your dog, and smiled when you walked in. One of those workers was Elliot Reed. He was 30 years old and worked at the checkout every night. Elliot had been there for 5 years. He wasn't famous or super funny, but he had a calm and kind way about him. People felt safe around him. Elliot used to study music in college. But when his dad got sick, he left school to take care of his mom. After his dad passed away, he never went back to college. He got a job at Florist Market, and it felt like home. He knew who liked paper bags and who liked plastic. He knew when people were feeling sad and only needed a smile and a quiet hello. He always helped the kids and listened to lonely people. He even remembered what brand of tuna Mr. Halverson liked when it went on sale. One hot Tuesday evening in April, it was really warm inside the store because the air conditioner was broken. By 8:30 p.m., Elliot had just finished putting drinks in the fridge and was wiping the glass door when he heard the doorbell chime. He looked up, thinking someone had just come in for milk or snacks. But instead, a tall man wearing a black baseball cap and gray hoodie walked in. The man looked like he didn't want to be noticed. Elliot didn't know who he was. The hoodie and hat made his face hard to see. But something about the man felt familiar. Maybe he had been in the store before, or maybe Elliot had seen him somewhere else. Still, Elliot treated him like everyone else. He gave a quiet smile and said, "Evening." The man lifted his hand to say hello and went to look at snacks. Later, the man came to the counter with 2 bottles of water and a used mystery book from the discount cart. Elliot saw the man frown a little as he looked through his wallet. "Oh," the man said softly, "I don't have enough." He smiled, embarrassed. "Is it okay if I run to my car and get my card?" "No problem," Elliot said kindly. "But if it's just a few dollars, don't worry about it. Happens all the time." The man looked surprised. "You sure?" "Totally," Elliot said, pulling $5 from his own tip jar. "We've gotta be kind when you can rule here." He smiled. The man laughed a little. "That's rare." "Not really," Elliot said. "It's just quiet." The man looked at Elliot like he saw something special in him. "Thank you," he said softly. "That means a lot today." Elliot nodded. "Anytime." The man left soon after, waving goodbye with 2 fingers. Elliot didn't think much of it. He liked helping people. That was just who he was. But the next day, something odd happened. At noon, a black SUV with dark windows stopped outside the store. 2 men in nice clothes stepped out. One of them came in and walked up to Elliot. "Are you Elliot Reed?" he asked. "Yes," Elliot said. The man handed him an envelope. "From Mr. Reeves. He asked us to bring this to you." "Mr. Reeves?" Elliot asked, confused. The man smiled. "He said you might not know it was him. But he was very thankful for your kindness." Then they left. Inside the envelope was a letter, written by hand in neat black ink. It said, "Elliot, yesterday you didn't know who I was, and that was a good thing. You didn't see a movie star. You just saw a person who needed help. And you helped me without thinking twice. I was having a really hard day. You made me feel like there's still kindness in the world. Thank you. I want to help you too. People like you shouldn't have to choose between doing the right thing and keeping a job. We've got something important to build." Expect another message soon. With respect, Keanu. Elliot froze. Keanu. It was Keanu Reeves, the man in the hoodie with the old book. Elliot couldn't believe it. But before he could even think too much about it, his manager called him into the office. The company had seen the video of him paying for a customer with tip money. They said it broke the rules. Words like policy and not allowed were said. Elliot tried to explain, but it didn't help. He lost his job. 5 years of working there. Gone in one day. Elliot walked home carrying a box with his stuff, a coffee mug, a keychain from his nephew, and his name tag. He was sad, but he didn't regret helping. That night, as he sat alone, he looked at Keanu's letter again. It made him feel better. Being kind was still the right thing, even if it cost him. Just before midnight, Elliot's phone buzzed. It was a message from an unknown number. Hey Elliot, it's Keanu. I meant it when I said we've got work to do. If you're free tomorrow, I'd like to meet. Elliot replied, yes. Where should I meet you? A few minutes later, a message came with a map. It showed a small cafe on the edge of the city. Elliot knew the place. It was an old cafe that had books and snacks. His mom used to take him there when he was little. When he walked in the next morning, he saw Keanu sitting at a table by the bookshelves. He wasn't wearing anything fancy. Just a flannel shirt and jeans. He looked like a regular person drinking tea. Elliot, he said, standing up and smiling. Thanks for coming. Thanks for everything, Elliot said. Keanu pointed to the chair. I hope you don't mind. I already ordered your coffee. The owner remembered you. You talked to Marlene? Elliot asked. She said you liked lemon scones, Keanu said with a grin. Elliot smiled. My mom loved those. They sat for a while, drinking and listening to soft music. Then Keanu pulled out a folder. I want to show you something, he said. And I want you to be honest with me. Elliot leaned forward as Keanu opened a folder. Inside were several pages of notes, sketches, and ideas. At the top of the first page, in big handwritten letters, it said, The Quiet Ones Foundation. It's just a working title, Keanu said, noticing Elliot looking at the name. But here's the idea. We create a group that finds and helps people who do good things quietly. People like you, clerks, janitors, bus drivers, waiters, people who help hold the world together but rarely get noticed. We tell their stories, support them, and remind everyone that kindness matters. Elliot didn't speak at first. He was still shocked. Here was a famous movie star, someone who had been a global icon for so long, sitting across from him with a plan based on his own story. He couldn't believe it. This is huge, Elliot finally said. I think it could be, Keanu agreed. But I don't want to do it without you. Elliot looked up, surprised. Me? Keanu nodded. Yes, you. I can fund it, and I can help get it noticed. But I need someone real to lead it, someone who's lived it. You're not just a symbol to me, Elliot. You're my partner. I want you to help lead this, help shape it. Elliot felt the words hang in the air. It was like a song starting, something he never imagined happening. Partnering with Keanu Reeves? Helping create a foundation? It felt unreal. But looking at Keanu, Elliot saw that the actor wasn't playing a role. He wasn't pretending. He was serious. He meant every word. I don't know what to say, Elliot admitted. Say you'll think about it, Keanu said kindly. And if you say yes, we can start tomorrow. The two of them talked for another hour. Keanu explained how the foundation would work, gathering stories from communities, giving small grants, and creating a website where people could nominate the quiet heroes in their lives. There would be no prizes for being the most popular, just real recognition and help. Elliot listened, asked questions, and gave ideas. By the end of the meeting, he wasn't just excited. He was ready. That night, back at his apartment, Elliot opened his laptop and began typing a list of names. These were people he had met while working at the store. People who deserved recognition. There was the single dad who bought groceries for an old neighbor every week. The high schooler who returned a lost wallet with $300 inside. The woman who volunteered at a shelter every weekend, even though she worked as a janitor. As he typed, he realized he was crying. It was all happening. They were going to shine a light on the quiet ones. The first days of the Quiet Ones Foundation felt both exciting and scary for Elliot. There were no big launch parties, no red carpets, just late nights working in Keanu's small office in Burbank, writing on whiteboards and planning. Elliot often felt unsure. He didn't have any experience with non-profit work or fundraising. But Keanu kept reminding him, you don't need credentials to care, just a heart. They rented a small office. It wasn't much, just 2 rooms with creaky floors and old walls, but it was theirs. On the first day, Elliot brought in a box of things from home to make it feel more comfortable. He set up a picture of his parents, his old guitar from college, and a simple sign that said, "Kindness is quiet, but it echoes forever." Keanu arrived soon after, bringing 2 coffees and a big smile. He never acted like a famous movie star. He didn't have bodyguards or assistants. He just worked beside Elliot, asking for feedback and helping gently, not telling Elliot what to do. Their plan for the foundation was simple but powerful. They wanted to highlight real people, quiet heroes, who did good things without expecting anything in return. Like the retired bus driver who left Christmas gifts on doorsteps or the teenager who helped neighbors with groceries in snowstorms. These were the quiet ones. The people who made the world better, one small act at a time. Elliot was nervous about writing stories about these people at first. "I'm not a writer," he told Keanu. But Keanu disagreed. "You're a storyteller," he said. "You just don't know it yet." So Elliot began writing. He spent nights reading letters, emails, and stories from people who wanted to share. Some stories made him cry. Like the mechanic who fixed cars for single moms or the waitress who paid for a homeless man's meal every week. It was hard for Elliot to sleep because he couldn't stop thinking about all these kind people. As the weeks went by, the foundation started to grow. Keanu's name had helped get attention, but soon people believed in the mission. Journalists wanted to hear more, but Keanu sent them to Elliot. "He's the reason this exists," Keanu said. At first, Elliot didn't like being on camera. He felt awkward and nervous. But the more he talked, the more people listened. He didn't talk about his past failures, but about second chances. About how anyone could be kind, no matter who they were. Behind the scenes, the work was hard. It was just Elliot, Keanu, and Ava, the young woman they hired as their part-time assistant. Ava was smart and funny, and she believed in the mission with all her heart. She had grown up in a tough neighborhood, and she wanted to help people who never got called heroes. Together, the 3 of them built something special. They started a campaign asking people to tag their local quiet heroes on social media. Soon, stories poured in from all over, stories of kindness, big and small. Elliot spent hours reading them, often crying because there was so much goodness in the world. One day, Elliot received a letter that stayed with him forever. It was from Carlin, an 84-year-old woman who lived alone. She thanked Elliot for reminding her that kindness still existed in the world. She even started leaving flowers on her neighbor's porch every Sunday to make her smile. That letter made Elliot realize they needed to do more. They couldn't just share stories, they needed to help. So, they started a fund called the Lantern Fund to help people who were struggling but still doing good. It quickly became a way for people to pay it forward. They raised enough money to help families in need, and the fund grew bigger every month. The Quiet Ones Foundation had become more than just an idea. It was a movement. It didn't chase fame or attention. It focused on real, quiet goodness. And it changed lives. One December morning, as Elliot opened the office door and saw the frost melting on the windows, he reflected on how far they had come. He wasn't the man who had been fired anymore. He was part of something that mattered, not because it was big, but because it was real. Then the phone rang. It was Keanu. "Hey, Elliot," he said. "I hope you're free next weekend." "For what?" Elliot asked. "We're going on a road trip," Keanu replied. "There's a woman in Minnesota who runs a community kitchen from her garage. Her stove broke. I think it's time we bring her a new one." Elliot smiled. "I'll pack the car, the stove, and head to Minnesota." Keanu's voice was full of excitement, and Elliot felt the same. It wasn't just about the stove. It was about bringing light to the quiet heroes who needed it. Elliot looked out the window of the rental SUV, watching the pine trees move in the wind. Snow had covered the ground, and he felt something special about the journey they were on. This wasn't a movie tour, and there were no cameras or big crowds. It was just Elliot, Keanu, and an important delivery. In the back of the SUV was a brand new stove, wrapped up in blankets and tied down carefully. It was a gift from the Quiet Ones Foundation, a charity that helps people. They were driving it all the way from Minneapolis to a small town called Eden Valley to give it to a woman named Dorothy Halley. Elliot didn't know Dorothy in person, but he had read a letter about her that made him stop and think. The letter had come from a volunteer named Maya. She wrote that Dorothy was 74 years old and had started a meal program in her garage when her husband died. Dorothy thought no one should be hungry, so she began cooking meals for people who needed them every Tuesday and Friday. She didn't ask for money, and she didn't care who came. She just cooked and helped anyone who needed food. But Dorothy's oven had broken, and she was still trying to cook with borrowed crockpots. Maya asked the Quiet Ones Foundation for help, saying that Dorothy deserved it more than anyone. Elliot read this letter out loud to Keanu one morning. After reading it, both of them sat quietly for a moment, thinking about it. The next day, they ordered the new stove, and Keanu suggested they deliver it themselves. After many hours on the road, they arrived in Eden Valley and parked in front of a small, blue house. Some people peered out of their windows as Elliot and Keanu stepped out into the snow. The smell of something warm and comforting, maybe stew or potatoes, filled the air. It was coming from the garage, where folding tables were set up and a slow cooker was working. Dorothy was inside, talking and laughing with a group of volunteers. Her gray hair was tied back, and her sweater sleeves had flour on them from cooking. When she saw the two men, she looked carefully at Keanu and then said, "You're the guy from the Matrix, aren't you?" Keanu laughed. Then Dorothy looked at Elliot and said, "You're the clerk. I read your letter on that website. It made me cry." Elliot smiled and said, "That means a lot. Thank you." Dorothy was curious about why they were there. "Surely, you're not here for a movie deal," she said. Keanu shook his head and pointed to the SUV, saying, "We brought you something." It took all of them, Elliot, Keanu, Dorothy, and the volunteers, to bring the stove into the garage. When Dorothy saw the new stove, her eyes filled with tears. She couldn't believe it. "Oh my Lord," she whispered. "I don't know what to say." Elliot smiled and told her, "You don't have to say anything. You've already said everything by how you live." They stayed for the rest of the day, helping out in the kitchen. Keanu peeled potatoes, and Elliot scrubbed old pots. Dorothy shared stories about all the people who had come to her garage over the years, people who had nowhere else to go. She didn't judge them. She simply fed them. "This isn't charity," Dorothy told them. "It's a community. Charity waits for people to fall, but the community helps them before they fall." Elliot remembered those words for a long time. He knew what Dorothy meant. Just like her, he had faced tough times in his life. He had lost his father, and his dreams had seemed out of reach. But, just like Dorothy, he found a way to help others. They all sat down to dinner that night, eating leftovers. Dorothy told them stories about her late husband, George, who used to say, "If you've got a warm oven and 2 working hands, you're richer than you think." After George passed away, Dorothy was sad and almost gave up. But then, one day, she saw a young man going through her garbage. Instead of being angry, she invited him inside and gave him some soup. That was the beginning of her meal program. Elliot understood what Dorothy meant. Life had been hard for him too, but helping others gave him purpose. After they said goodbye, Elliot and Keanu drove back home. Elliot was quiet, looking out at the snowy landscape. Finally, he said, "That's who we do this for. People like Dorothy." Keanu nodded and said, "She's not famous, but she's unforgettable." In the next few weeks, Dorothy's story spread online. Someone from the local high school took a photo of Keanu and Elliot delivering the stove. The photo was shared hundreds of thousands of times, with the caption, "Keanu Reeves delivered a stove to my grandma's garage soup kitchen today." The post didn't use hashtags or tags, but it still reached a lot of people. Elliot didn't pay much attention to the popularity of the story. He focused on helping more people through the Lantern Fund. The foundation was receiving requests for small but important things, like help with rent, a laptop for job hunting, or transportation to a job interview. These weren't big things, but they were important. With the help of many kind donors, the foundation was able to meet these needs. But not everyone was happy about the foundation's success. One day, a blog posted an article called "Good Intentions or Vanity Project: The Problem with Celebrity-Backed Kindness." The article asked if Keanu was just using the foundation for publicity and questioned whether Elliot's story was real. Elliot felt a little hurt and confused. But when he talked to his assistant, Ava, he realized something important. He told her, "The best part about helping people is that you don't have to explain it to anyone who's ever needed help." And with that, he returned to his work, writing thank you notes to the people who had donated. Keanu texted Elliot later that night, saying just 2 words, "Keep going." Elliot smiled and decided to continue doing the important work of helping others. As the foundation grew, they moved to a bigger office in a downtown building. It wasn't as small and cozy as their old office, but it was still full of purpose. The office was busy with volunteers working hard to help people. Keanu often came by in jeans and a flannel shirt, carrying a list of new ideas. Ava, who had been with the foundation from the start, was now the operations director. The team had grown, and many of the new volunteers had once received help from the Lantern Fund and wanted to give back. Elliot didn't see himself as just a store clerk anymore. He was proud of the work he was doing to help people. One day, Elliot traveled to Cincinnati to meet a man named Mr. Thornton. Mr. Thornton was a janitor at a local school who had helped many students over the years. He wasn't a teacher, but he mentored kids in his own way. He fixed bikes, helped with science projects, and made kids feel safe. Elliot was there to shake Mr. Thornton's hand and thank him for all the good he did. Elliot knew that people like Mr. Thornton, Dorothy, and others who quietly helped their communities were the real heroes. Elliot introduced himself and told the man why he was there. The man looked a little confused. "I'm just doing what someone once did for me," he said, rubbing the back of his neck. "Didn't think it counted for much." Elliot smiled and said, "It counts for a little boy who needed someone to notice him. And now, we want to help you fix up that old community shed you've been working in. We've already brought the supplies. The rest is on us." Thornton blinked, feeling surprised. "All that for me?" "Yes," Elliot said softly. "For every kid you've helped, it matters. It's these quiet little moments that remind me what the Quiet Ones Foundation is really about. It's not about applause or donations. It's about seeing the good in people. It's about showing that they matter." But even good things have their struggles. As the foundation grew, Elliot had to deal with more difficult problems. There were many letters, some of them very sad. People asked for help because they were sick or losing their homes. The Lantern Fund had limited money, so Elliot couldn't help everyone. He felt bad about saying no, but he made sure every letter was written with kindness. One night, after a long day of reading letters, Elliot stayed late at the office. The team had gone home. The streets outside were wet with rain, and Elliot's eyes were tired. He leaned back in his chair and looked at the ceiling. "Am I doing enough?" he whispered to the empty room. There was a soft knock on the door. It was Keanu, holding 2 bags of takeout food. "Thought you might have skipped dinner again," he said with a smile. They sat on the floor and ate together, enjoying Thai noodles, egg rolls, and iced tea. After a while, Keanu pulled out a binder from his backpack. "What's this?" Elliot asked. "It's your story," Keanu said. "The one you didn't know you were writing." Keanu opened the binder, and inside were thank you notes and photos from people who had been helped by the foundation. Some people had written about getting a new home or going to school. Some had pictures of their children now able to eat without being hungry. Elliot flipped through the pages slowly. His heart grew warm with each note. "How long have you been collecting these?" Elliot asked. "Since the beginning," Keanu said. "I thought one day you'd need to see how far your kindness had spread." Elliot sat quietly for a moment. "You know," he said, "I used to think that the time I gave you a couple of bucks was the smallest thing I ever did." Keanu smiled. "But small things done with heart can make the biggest difference. They spread and ripple out." That night, as Elliot walked home under the city lights, he held the binder close to his chest, feeling like it was armor. He realized something important. He hadn't just helped others, he had also healed himself. The pain from losing his job, the fear of not being good enough, it had all changed. His story wasn't just about recovering, it was about giving. The world didn't change with big loud actions, but with small acts of kindness. The next day, Elliot got a letter. It had no name or address. Inside was a note from a father. He said his son had read about Elliot and how he used to think kindness was weak. But now, his son wanted to volunteer at a shelter. The father thanked Elliot for showing his son that being kind is brave. Elliot smiled as he read the note. He realized that the Quiet Ones Foundation wasn't just growing, it was blooming. People were inspired to help each other, just like he had. The day of the Humankind Heroes Summit arrived. The sun was shining, and it felt like everything was peaceful. Elliot stood in front of the mirror in his apartment, wearing a suit he hadn't worn since his sister's wedding. As he looked at himself, he didn't see the man who used to work at a grocery store. He saw someone changed by kindness and guided by a bigger mission. Downstairs, a black car was waiting for him. Keanu was already inside. He smiled and handed Elliot a cup of coffee. "Ready?" Keanu asked. Elliot took a deep breath. "As ready as I'll ever be." The summit wasn't about fame or awards. It was a gathering of people who helped others without asking for anything in return. Nurses, teachers, truck drivers, and even kids who gave coats to classmates. Over the last 3 years, the Quiet Ones Foundation had helped more than 12,000 people all over the world, not with big gestures, but with small acts of love and care. The event was held in a big, old building. There were no fancy seats or decorations. Everyone sat together on soft chairs. It was about talking and listening, not about showing off. Elliot greeted everyone, hugging grandmothers, shaking hands with workers, and talking to children. There were laughs, tears, and a warm feeling of community. When it was time to speak, Ava took the microphone. She said, "We're not here to be inspired. We're here to remember who we really are. Every one of you made a choice to care, even when it was hard." Elliot went next. He didn't have a big speech. He just shared from his heart. When I lost my job, I thought it was the end of something. But I didn't know it was the start of something new. I said yes to kindness, and now we're all here. He paused. We've helped thousands of people, but we haven't saved anyone. What we've done is remind people that they're not alone. Kindness is still the most powerful thing we can do. The room was quiet as everyone stood, not clapping loudly, but quietly showing their support. After the event, Keanu stood with Elliot, watching people talk and exchange stories. A young girl with Down syndrome gave Elliot a drawing she made, showing him handing someone a lantern with the words, "Thank you for your light." Keanu smiled and said, "You've done something I couldn't do. You made kindness feel like home." Elliot looked around at the crowd. "No," he said, "we did it together." Later that night, Elliot found another letter on his doorstep. It was from a father whose daughter had received hearing aids from the Lantern Fund. "Because of you, she now hears birds for the first time," the letter said. "Thank you. Please never stop." Elliot sat on his couch and read the letter again and again. Then, he opened his notebook and wrote new thoughts. Maybe the world didn't need heroes in capes. Maybe it just needed kind people who did the little things that mattered. The clock struck midnight. The city was quiet, but Elliot was awake, his heart full of purpose. Somewhere, another quiet act of kindness was beginning. If you liked this story, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below and let me know what you think. And don't forget to subscribe for more thrilling adventures, mysteries, and unforgettable moments. Your support keeps these stories alive and the creativity flowing. Thanks for watching. I can't wait to see you in the next video.